Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with shrimp toast. That's right, remember that time you went to your friends to watch the game? But instead of the usual chips and dips, that lady made that thing that was so delicious, you're still talking about it, and that was like years ago. Well, my friends, this could be that thing, and you could be that lady. And the great news here, besides this thing being gorgeous and very, very delicious, it is incredibly easy to make, as you're about to see. Because basically we're just dumping everything in a food processor and making a paste. And that everything we're going to be dumping starts with some raw shrimp. And yes, I did say raw shrimp. This just won't work with cooked shrimp, so don't even try it. And of course, if these came with the tails on, you're going to pull those off. Those would add an odd and very dangerous texture. And then to our raw shrimp, we're also going to want to add some water chestnut, which for me comes sliced in these little cans. Sure, one day I'd like to use fresh water chestnut, but I'm not even sure if that's a thing. So I'm going to settle for these, as I have for the last 30 years. And even though we're going to blend this all into a paste in the food processor, I do want to chop up my ingredients before they go in. I think everything's going to mix a lot better. But having said that, some people just dump it all in and blend it together. But I do think this works a little better if you give things a chop first. And then besides that, we're also going to add some chopped cilantro, as well as some sliced green onions, also known as scallions. We're also going to do some chopped garlic, as well as some freshly grated ginger root. And then, believe it or not, we're also going to add one anchovy fillet. I figure since we're not going to add any actual MSG, we'll add some Italian MSG. So these ingredients are going to form the base of our shrimp paste, but we still need to add some additional flavorings and seasonings. So let's do our liquids first, which will include a little bit of toasted sesame oil, and not too much because that can be overpowering. So just about a teaspoon. And then we'll also give it a little bit of Asian fish sauce, which despite the odd aroma when you're using it, always provides a little bit of extra savoriness. And then we're definitely going to give this a nice shot of soy sauce. And no, not low sodium. We want to go full sodium here. And then to help bind this mixture up a little bit, we're going to add one egg white. So we will separate an egg and just add the white. And at this point, we can go ahead and season it up with the final ingredients. So let's go ahead and add a pinch of sugar. And why a little sugar? For some sweetness. And then let's also do a little touch of paprika, followed by, oh yes, a little shake of cayenne, and then last but not least, a tiny pinch of salt. And be careful, we already added several salty ingredients. Which reminds me, we'll talk a little bit about seasoning for this on the blog post. And then once we have everything in there, we're simply going to process this into a paste. So we'll start as usual by pulsing on and off to get it going. And of course, whenever we start something like this, we're always going to get big chunks that fly up and stick to the sides. Hey, that's what big chunks do. So what we always want to do once it gets started is stop, remove the lid, and take a spatula and scrape it all down. And that way we ensure everything's going to get mixed in. So we'll give that a scraping, and we will continue processing until, like I said, we have what can best be described as a shrimp paste. And if everything's gone according to plan, it should look something like this, which is really not that easy to see in here. So let's go ahead and transfer this to a bowl so you can get a better look at the texture. And that is it. Our shrimp paste is done. And we can use this immediately if we want, or we can simply wrap it up and pop it in the fridge until needed. And for what it's worth, I do think this comes out a little better if we give those flavors a little time to develop. But either way, when you are ready to serve, this is how we're going to do final assembly. And as you may or may not know, the base of shrimp toast is white bread. Yes, they still make white bread. And while most people use the slice as is, I suggest toasting it just a little bit. See how we have just a little bit of color on that? I think by giving this a little brief toasting first, it's easier to work with and fries up a little better. And then what we'll do before we spread it on the mixture is cut off the crusts, which a lot of people like to do after they spread the mixture on, but then you always lose mixture. So I firmly believe you should always trim before you spread, but that's up to you. You are the host of this toast. And then all we need to do is take a fork and spread over enough mixture to cover. And what I always try to shoot for is to have the mixture exactly the same thickness as the bread. But of course, if you want to add a little more or a little less, feel free. And then once our mixture is spread, we'll go ahead and cut these into the geometric shape of your choice. We could do rectangles, we could do squares, or in this case, triangles. You've heard me say before, people love pointy food. And as soon as those are cut, they're ready to fry. And right here's a great shot to see what I was talking about. I basically have an equal ratio between the shrimp paste and the toast. But anyway, once our mixture has been spread on and we've cut our toast, we are ready to fry. So let's head over to the stove where I have about a ½ inch of vegetable oil set over medium-high heat. And a great way to test if your oil's ready is with a little scrap of bread. If you dip it in and it starts bubbling enthusiastically, you're ready to fry. So once our oil is hot, we will place those very carefully, shrimp paste side down, and we will cook these for approximately 2 to 3 minutes per side, or until our bread is nicely browned and crispy. So it really does depend on the size and thickness, but ballpark it's going to be about 2 to 3 minutes per side. Okay, and right here you can get a great look at how the bottom should look. Okay, we don't want to burn it, but we really do want those well browned. And once we've determined those have cooked long enough, we will remove those to a paper towel to drain a little bit. And then let me show you something here you never want to do. The tops of these two looked a little lighter than the other ones, so I flipped them back over for a little extra browning. But the problem is if you start flipping these back and forth, they do absorb a lot more oil, okay? So why did I do it? Because I wanted them to look a little darker for the picture. So yes, in other words, a dumb reason. But anyway, the point is if you can, just flip them once. And once those have drained for a couple seconds on a paper towel, they are ready to serve. Yes, these are definitely better served hot or warm. So we can go ahead and transfer those onto a tray or a plate, or whatever the heck this thing is. And maybe we'll top those with a little extra green onion, quite possibly cut on the bias. And that's it. Our shrimp toasts are done. And if you haven't had these before, you are in for a huge treat. These are one of the great hot party snacks of all time. Just a beautiful combination of that soft, savory, moist shrimp paste and that crispy fried toast. I mean, come on, how's that not going to be amazing? It's just ridiculously good and extremely addictive. So please eat responsibly. So I really did think these came out incredibly well. Although after I made this batch, I did remember you're supposed to sprinkle them with sesame seeds before you fry them. Which I did to another batch that I made into squares. And I fried those up, and those sesame seeds did look beautiful. But if I'm being honest, they really didn't taste that differently from the triangle batch. But as I mentioned, I did like the appearance. So next time I believe I'll combine these two efforts and do triangles with sesame seeds. That is one of the great things about cooking. There's always a next time. It's a very comforting thought. But regardless, square or triangle, with seeds or sans seeds, these things are gorgeous, delicious, and fairly easy to make. So I really do hope you give these a try soon. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.